My ticket was canceled without warning, leaving me stranded in the airport lounge with nothing but a useless boarding pass and rising panic. The crisp, flimsy paper in my hand feels like a death sentence. Everyone else, a river of humanity, hurries to their gates, their wheeled suitcases rattling a cheerful, oblivious rhythm on the polished floors. They have destinations, they have purpose. I, Cara Hudgens, sit frozen on a sterile, unforgiving bench, realizing, with a cold dread, that seeps into my bones that I have nowhere to go. The flight back to Chicago was my last hope. The last of my savings evaporated into a digital error message. Flight canceled. No rebooking available. Panic is a physical thing. It's a tightening in my chest, a metallic taste on my tongue. My world, already precarious since Dad's business collapsed, has just crumbled into dust. I'm stuck in New York, a city that swallows people like me whole, with $47 and a phone whose battery is bleeding its life away. My breath hitches. I squeeze my eyes shut, trying to hold back the tears that burn behind them. Crying in public is a luxury I cannot afford. It's a sign of weakness, an invitation for predators. That's when he appears. It's not a sound or a sudden movement that alerts me to his presence. It's a shift in the very atmosphere of the bustling lounge. The air thickens, charged with a low hum of energy, like the moments before a lightning strike. The crowd, that rushing river, seems to part around him, an invisible wake created by a shark gliding through shallow water. I open my eyes, and they land on him. He is tall, impossibly so, dressed in a suit so black and perfectly tailored it seems to absorb the light around it. His hair is the color of midnight, thick and just a little untamed, as if he just ran a hand through it in a moment of frustration or thought. But it's his face that holds me captive. It's a composition of sharp angles and severe beauty, a face that belongs on ancient Roman currency, powerful and unforgiving. And his eyes, they are already on me. They are not brown. They are darker than that, the color of black coffee or wet earth, and they are locked on mine with an intensity that feels like a physical touch. There is no warmth in them, only an unnerving, absolute focus. He is Adrian DeLuca. I know the name the way everyone in the city knows it, whispered in equal parts fear and reverence. The heir to the DeLuca crime family, a man whose empire is built on shadows and secrets. He takes a slow, deliberate step toward me, and then another. The ambient noise of the airport, the announcements, the rolling bags, the distant roar of engines fades into a dull, distant hum. All I can hear is the frantic thumping of my own heart against my ribs. A smile touches his lips, but it does not reach his eyes. It's a predatory curve, carrying more danger than comfort, a glimpse of teeth that could tear me apart. Come with me. His voice is a low baritone, smooth as aged whiskey but laced with gravel and command. It's not a suggestion. It's a statement of fact, an inevitability. He gestures with his head toward the far end of the terminal, where discreet signs point toward private aviation. My jet leaves in 10 minutes. My mind screams 1,000 warnings. Run. Scream. Don't look at him. Don't listen. I should have refused. I should have found my voice, which is currently trapped somewhere in my constricted throat, and told him no. But looking into those unrelenting eyes, I understand on a primal level that refusal isn't an option. It's an illusion. He has set his sights on me, and a man like Adrian DeLuca does not miss his target. Why me? The question is a useless flicker in the storm of my panic. My body moves before my brain can consent. My legs, feeling like they belong to someone else, push me to my feet. My hand, trembling, grips the strap of my worn shoulder bag. I leave the useless boarding pass on the bench, a relic of a life that ended just moments ago. As I follow Adrian DeLuca toward the private gates, each step feels like I'm walking off a cliff in slow motion. The polished floor reflects our images back at me, him, a figure of immense power and dark grace, and me, a ghost trailing in his wake. I know, with a certainty that is both terrifying and absolute, that my life will never belong to me again. The walk is a blur of silent obedience. He doesn't look back to see if I'm following. He knows I am. The air parts for him, people instinctively moving aside, their eyes sliding off his expensive suit as if afraid to look too long. I am invisible, tucked into his shadow. We bypass the chaotic security lines, the crowds, the entire public spectacle of travel. A discreet door, manned by a single, stone-faced guard who nods at Adrian without a word, opens into a different world. The private lounge is hushed and opulent. The air smells of leather, expensive cologne, and something else, the clean, metallic scent of money. It's a world away from the stale, recycled air of the main terminal. There are no screaming children, no frazzled travelers, just a few quietly conversing groups of people who radiate the same effortless authority as Adrian. He doesn't stop. He moves through the lounge and out onto the tarmac, where a sleek white jet waits like a patient predator. The setting sun glints off its wings, painting the sky in hues of orange and blood. The roar of its engines is a low, hungry growl. Two pilots in crisp uniforms stand at the base of the stairs, their expressions professionally blank as they greet him. "Mr. DeLuca." Adrian simply nods, his focus still somewhere far away. Or perhaps it's entirely on me, even without looking. He ascends the stairs, and I follow, my cheap boots sinking into the plush carpeting. The inside of the jet is a masterpiece of understated luxury. Cream leather seats, polished dark wood paneling, subtle gold accents. It's more like a penthouse suite than an aircraft. My worn bag, with its frayed strap and peeling pleather, feels like a piece of trash in this pristine environment. I stand awkwardly in the entryway, not sure what to do, where to go. Adrian is already shrugging off his suit jacket, revealing the stark white of his shirt and the custom-made leather holster nestled under his arm. The sight of the gun, dark and menacing against the white fabric, sends a fresh jolt of fear through me. It's a stark reminder of who he is, what he is. This isn't a game. He turns to me, his dark eyes finally taking me in fully. A slow, appraising sweep from my worn-out boots to my doubtlessly terrified face. "Sit," he commands, gesturing to one of the plush seats. I obey, sinking into the leather. It's softer than any chair I've ever sat in, but it offers no comfort. I feel like a captured bird, my wings clipped, placed in a gilded cage. I wrap my arms around myself, a futile attempt to hold myself together. He takes the seat opposite me, stretching his long legs out. The space between us feels both vast and suffocatingly small. For a long moment, he just watches me, his expression unreadable. The silence is a heavy blanket, thick with unspoken questions and my own mounting terror. "Why?" The word escapes my lips as a hoarse whisper. It's the only one I can manage. "Why me? Why are you doing this?" His lips twitch, a ghost of that dangerous smile. "Because your ticket was canceled." The simplicity of his answer is maddening. That's not an answer. My voice gains a sliver of strength, fueled by desperation. "You don't just offer strangers a ride on your private jet. I do when I arrange for their commercial flight to be canceled," he says, his tone conversational, as if discussing the weather. The bottom drops out of my stomach. This wasn't a coincidence. This wasn't a random act of kindness from a mysterious billionaire. This was a deliberate, calculated abduction. He had me stranded. He manufactured my desperation. You did that?" I stammer, the full weight of my situation crashing down on me. I am not just in his presence. I am in his custody. "I did." He leans forward slightly, the movement fluid and predatory. His scent reaches me sandalwood, leather, and something uniquely him, a clean masculine scent that is both alluring and terrifying. "Your father, Robert Hudgens, made a promise to my father a long time ago. A debt was incurred. That debt is now due. My father, the man who has been a ghost in my life for the past year, lost in a haze of grief and failure after the business went under, after Mom died. What could he possibly have to do with the DeLuca family? What debt?" I demand, my fear giving way to a spark of anger. "My father is a broken man. He has nothing. We have nothing. He had a daughter," Adrian says softly, and the words hang in the air between us, cold and sharp as shards of glass. "A promise was made, Cara. A contract signed, to settle the final accounts between our families." My blood runs cold. A contract. The word sounds archaic, barbaric. "What kind of contract?" I whisper, dreading the answer. The jet begins to move, a smooth, powerful glide down the runway. I feel the momentum as a lurch in my stomach, a physical manifestation of my life being irrevocably carried away. Adrian's dark eyes hold mine. He doesn't blink. A marriage contract. The world tilts on its axis. The roar of the engines fills my ears as the jet lifts off the ground, climbing steeply into the blood-red sky. I am ascending into a new reality, one where I am no longer a person, but collateral. A debt to be paid. The wife of Adrian DeLuca. The city lights of New York shrink below us, a glittering, indifferent constellation, and for the first time, I feel utterly and completely alone. The flight is a silent eternity. I stare out the window, watching the clouds drift by like ghostly continents, anything to avoid looking at him. My mind is a maelstrom of denial and terror. A marriage contract? It's insane. It's something out of a medieval fairy tale, not 21st century America. My father, the gentle, bookish man I knew, couldn't have done this. He wouldn't have sold me. But the man sitting across from me is no fantasy. The cold, hard reality of the gun under his arm is no fairy tale. After what feels like hours, a flight attendant, a woman with a serene face and eyes that reveal nothing, appears with a tray. She offers me a glass of water, her movements graceful and silent. I take it with a trembling hand. The cool glass, a small, solid anchor in my spinning world. "You should eat something," Adrian says. His voice startles me, pulling me from my frantic thoughts. I shake my head, my throat too tight to swallow. "I'm not hungry." It wasn't a request. He gestures to the plate of delicate sandwiches and fruit on the tray. His gaze is unwavering, and I know this is the first of many battles of will, a test of my compliance. Defiance feels necessary, a way to cling to the last vestiges of my autonomy. But I am also pragmatic. Starving myself will only make me weaker. Slowly, I pick up a small, crustless sandwich. It tastes like ash in my mouth. I force myself to chew and swallow, each bite a bitter pill of submission. I eat because he commands it. The power dynamic is set in stone. He watches me, a flicker of something unreadable in his eyes. It might be satisfaction, but it could also be something else. Pity? No, a man like him doesn't feel pity. "Where are you taking me?" I ask, my voice steadier now. If I am to survive this, I need information. "Home," he says simply. "That's not my home." The words are out before I can stop them, sharp and defiant. His jaw tightens almost imperceptibly. It is now. He leans back, the conversation clearly over. He closes his eyes, not in sleep, but in dismissal. He has what he wants. He has me. The rest is just logistics. I turn back to the window. The sun has completely set, and the world below is a blanket of darkness, punctuated by the occasional sparkle of a town or a lonely highway. We are flying over nothing, heading toward nowhere I know. A profound sense of isolation washes over me. No one knows where I am. No one is coming for me. My father, in his grief-stricken stupor, probably hasn't even noticed I'm gone. My anger at Adrian begins to curdle, redirecting itself toward my father. How could he? How could he sign me away like a piece of property? The betrayal is a fresh, gaping wound, more painful than any fear Adrian could instill in me. The jet finally begins its descent. I brace myself, my knuckles white as I grip the armrests. Through the window, I see nothing but darkness. No city lights, no sprawling suburbs, just an endless expanse of black. Then, a string of lights appears, outlining a runway carved into what looks like a dense forest. We land with a gentle bump, the powerful engines reversing thrust with a deafening roar. We taxi toward a solitary hangar, its massive doors sliding open to welcome us. Inside, a black sports utility vehicle is waiting, its headlights cutting through the gloom. This is not an airport. This is a private fortress. The jet door opens, and the night air rushes in, cool and smelling of pine and damp earth. It's a clean, wild scent, so different from the city smog I'm used to. It should feel freeing, but it only enhances my sense of isolation. Adrian stands, retrieving his jacket. He puts it on, once again concealing the weapon, a predator sheathing his claws. He waits for me at the door, his silhouette framed against the hangar lights. "Come, Cara." My name on his lips sounds foreign, a word he has claimed as his own. I force my legs to move, to carry me down the steps and onto the solid ground of my new prison. A man in a dark suit, his face impassive, holds the car door open. Adrian gestures for me to get in. I slide onto the cold leather of the back seat. Adrian gets in beside me, and the door shuts with a heavy, final thud. The sound echoes in my soul. The car pulls away smoothly, leaving the jet and the hangar behind, plunging into the darkness of a winding road flanked by towering, monstrous trees. Their branches reach over the road, forming a tunnel that swallows the headlights. We drive for what feels like 15 minutes, the only sound the crunch of tires on gravel. Then, through the trees, I see it. It's not a house. It's an estate, a modern fortress of glass, steel, and dark stone that seems to rise from the earth itself. Lights glow from within, warm and golden, but they offer no welcome. The house is magnificent, starkly beautiful, and utterly intimidating. It's perched on a cliff, and as we round a final bend, I can hear the distant, thunderous roar of the ocean. The car pulls to a stop before a massive front door made of dark, heavy wood. The driver gets out and opens Adrian's door. Adrian exits and then turns, holding his hand out to me. An offer of assistance, a gentlemanly gesture that is utterly at odds with the fact that he has kidnapped me. I stare at his hand large, with long, capable fingers. I can feel the warmth radiating from his skin, even from a foot away. I ignore his hand and get out on my own, my feet landing on the stone driveway. It's a small act of defiance, a pathetic one, but it's all I have. A muscle in his jaw clenches, but he says nothing. He simply drops his hand and turns toward the house. The massive door swings open before he reaches it, opened by an older woman with silver hair pulled into a neat bun and a kind, but wary face. She wears a simple black dress. "Welcome home, Mr. DeLuca," she says, her voice soft. Her eyes flicker to me for a fraction of a second, and in them, I see a flash of pity. It makes my skin crawl. I don't want her pity. "Elena," Adrian acknowledges her with a nod. "This is Cara. She will be staying with us. Show her to the East Wing suite. Have a meal prepared for her." He speaks about me as if I'm not there. I am an object to be managed, a package to be delivered. He doesn't look at me again. He strides past us, down a long, marble-floored hallway, and disappears into a room at the far end, closing the door behind him. I am left alone with Elena. The silence is awkward. Elena gives me a small, hesitant smile. "If you will follow me, miss." I nod, too exhausted and overwhelmed to speak. I follow her up a wide, curving staircase, my footsteps echoing in the cavernous space. The house is breathtakingly beautiful, filled with modern art and minimalist furniture, but it has the soulless, sterile feel of a museum. There are no family photos, no personal trinkets, no signs of a life lived. It is the home of a man who doesn't have one. Elena leads me down a long corridor to a set of double doors. She opens them, revealing a suite that is larger than my entire apartment back in Chicago. There's a spacious bedroom with a king-sized bed, a sitting area with a fireplace, and a wall of glass that overlooks the dark, churning ocean below. A balcony hangs over the abyss. "Your luggage will be brought up," Elena says, gesturing to a walk-in closet. "I did some shopping based on the sizes Mr. DeLuca provided. I hope they are to your liking." Mr. DeLuca provided my sizes. The thought is deeply unsettling. He knew my clothing size. How much else did he know about me before he ever laid eyes on me in that airport? The surveillance was more thorough than I could have imagined. I am a specimen he has studied extensively. "Dinner will be ready in an hour. I can bring it here, if you prefer," Elena offers. "Yes, please," I manage to say. The thought of navigating this house, of possibly running into him again, is too much to bear. Elena nods and quietly lets herself out, closing the doors behind her. I am alone. I walk numbly toward the wall of glass. The roar of the ocean is louder here. I press my hand against the cold pane, looking out at the black water crashing against the rocks below. There is no beach, just a sheer, deadly drop. There is no escape. I am a prisoner in a beautiful, luxurious cage. A storm is brewing outside, the wind beginning to howl, rattling the glass. It's a perfect reflection of the tempest raging inside me. I sink to my knees on the plush carpet, and finally, with no one to see, I let the tears fall. They are not tears of sadness, but of pure, unadulterated rage. Rage at Adrian DeLuca, rage at my father, and rage at the utter powerlessness of my situation. I cry until I have nothing left, until I am just a hollow shell in a gilded room, waiting for my captor to decide my fate. Sleep doesn't come easily. I lie in the enormous bed, lost in a sea of high thread count sheets that feel like silk against my skin. The luxury is a mockery of my circumstances. Every so often, a flash of lightning illuminates the room, casting stark, dancing shadows on the walls. The thunder that follows is a deep, guttural rumble that shakes the very foundations of the house. The storm outside is a wild, untamed thing, and I feel a strange kinship with it. I must have drifted off at some point, because I'm startled awake by a sound. It's not the storm. It's a soft click, the sound of my bedroom door opening. I freeze, my entire body tensing. My heart hammers against my ribs, a frantic drumbeat in the sudden silence between claps of thunder. I don't move. I barely breathe. pretending to be asleep. A dark figure steps into the room, a silhouette against the dim light from the hallway. It's him, Adrian. He closes the door behind him, plunging the room back into near total darkness. I can hear his soft footsteps on the carpet as he approaches the bed. What does he want? My mind races with terrifying possibilities. Is this it? Is he here to claim his due? To enforce the barbaric contract my father signed? A wave of primal fear, cold and sharp, washes over me. I am completely at his mercy. He stops beside the bed. I can feel his presence, a tangible heat in the cool air. I can smell his scent again, sandalwood, and the faint, clean smell of rain. He must have been outside. I keep my eyes squeezed shut, my breathing shallow and even, praying he'll believe my charade. He doesn't speak. He just stands there, watching me. The silence stretches on, thick and heavy with unspoken intent. I can feel his gaze on me, tracing the lines of my body under the thin blanket. It's an unnervingly intimate sensation, and a shiver I can't suppress runs down my spine. Then, he moves. I hear the soft rustle of fabric. He reaches out, and his fingers, unexpectedly warm, gently brush a stray strand of hair from my cheek. The touch is feather light, almost tentative, but it sends a jolt through me like a live wire. It's not the rough, demanding touch I expected. It's gentle. My breath catches in my throat, betraying me. I know he heard it. He pulls his hand back. For another long moment, he remains by the bed. Then, with a sigh so quiet I almost miss it, he turns and walks away. I hear the soft click of the door as he leaves, and I am alone again. I let out the breath I was holding in a shaky gasp. My heart is still pounding. I open my eyes, staring into the darkness where he stood. Why did he come in here? Why did he touch me like that? The gentleness of the gesture is more confusing, more unsettling, than any act of aggression would have been. Aggression, I understand. I can fight against it. But this I don't know what to do with. It cracks the carefully constructed image I have of him as a monster, introducing a sliver of something complex and unreadable. A man who orchestrates a kidnapping doesn't gently brush hair from his victim's face. I don't sleep for the rest of the night. I lie awake, listening to the storm rage outside, my mind replaying that single, gentle touch over and over again. It's a chink in his armor, a moment of something that doesn't fit the narrative, and it terrifies me more than anything else. The next morning, the storm has passed. A weak, watery sunlight filters into the room, painting everything in shades of gray. The ocean is calmer, a roiling expanse of steel-blue water under a heavy sky. I feel hollowed out, exhausted. I force myself out of bed and explore the walk-in closet. It's filled with clothes, all in my size. Designer jeans, cashmere sweaters, simple silk blouses, even underwear and nightgowns. All new, all expensive. The sheer audacity of it, the presumption, makes me angry all over again. He has stripped me of my old life so completely that he's even replaced my clothes. I choose the simplest things I can find. A pair of dark jeans and a plain gray sweater. They feel foreign on my skin. I look in the mirror in the enormous marble bathroom. The woman staring back at me is pale and haunted, her eyes wide with a fear she can't quite conceal. But there's a flicker of defiance there, too. I will not break. Steeling myself, I leave the suite. I have to face him. I have to know what happens next. The house is silent. I follow the curving staircase down to the main floor. The marble is cold under my bare feet. I find my way to what looks like a dining room, a long, imposing table surrounded by a dozen chairs. It's empty. I wander through the downstairs, my initial fear being replaced by a strange, restless curiosity. The house is a labyrinth of clean lines and empty spaces. I eventually find the kitchen, a vast, stainless steel marvel that looks like it belongs in a high-end restaurant. Elena is there, polishing a silver coffee pot. She looks up when I enter, her expression softening. "Good morning, miss. Can I get you some breakfast?" "Just coffee. Please," I say. My voice is raspy. She nods and pours a cup from the pot she was polishing, handing it to me. The warmth of the mug is comforting in my cold hands. "Where is he?" I ask, not needing to say his name. "Mr. DeLuca is in his study," she says, her eyes cast down. "He does not like to be disturbed when he is working." "Of course. The king in his throne room." I take a sip of the coffee. It's strong and black, and it jolts my senses awake. I need to talk to him. I can't just wait in my room like a princess in a tower. Where is his study? I ask, my tone more demanding than I intend. Elena hesitates, a flicker of fear in her own eyes. Miss, I don't think… Please, I interrupt, softening my voice. I won't say you told me. She looks at me for a long moment, a silent battle playing out on her face. Then, with a sigh of resignation, she gestures with her head, down the main hall, the last door on the left. Thank you, Elena. With my heart pounding a nervous rhythm against my ribs, I walk out of the kitchen and down the long marble hallway. The door to his study is imposing, made of the same dark, heavy wood as the front door. I stand before it, my courage wavering. What am I going to say? What am I going to demand? That he let me go? He's already made it clear that's not an option. I take a deep breath, ball my hand into a fist, and knock. The sound is loud in the silent house. There's no answer. I knock again, harder this time. Adrian? Still nothing. A sliver of unease worms its way through me. Is he not in there? Or is he just ignoring me? Acting on an impulse born of frustration, I turn the heavy, ornate handle. To my surprise, it's unlocked. The door swings inward with a soft creak. The study is dark, the heavy curtains drawn against the morning light. The air is thick with the smell of old books, leather, and whiskey. A massive desk dominates the room, littered with papers and a half-empty glass. And behind the desk, slumped in his leather chair, is Adrian. He's not working. He's asleep, his head resting on his folded arms on the desk. His usually immaculate hair is disheveled, and the harsh lines of his face are softened in slumber. He looks younger, more vulnerable. An empty bottle of whiskey stands on the corner of the desk, a silent testament to his night. He didn't come to my room and then go to his own bed. He came here, and he drank himself to sleep. My anger from the night before fizzles out, replaced by a confusing mix of emotions. I see a cashmere blanket draped over the back of a nearby sofa. Before I can think about what I'm doing, I walk over, pick it up, and gently drape it over his broad shoulders. His suit jacket is rumpled, and he must be cold. As I adjust the blanket, my fingers brush against the back of his neck. He stirs, murmuring something in his sleep. A name. Sophia. The name hangs in the air, a ghost. It's not my name. A sharp, unexpected pang of something goes through me. Jealousy. It's a ridiculous notion. I'm his prisoner, not his lover. But the feeling is there nonetheless, unwelcome and confusing. Who is Sophia? I step back, my heart beating a little faster. This is a side of him I was never meant to see. The powerful, untouchable Adrian DeLuca, asleep and vulnerable, dreaming of another woman. It's a crack in the fortress, a glimpse of the man behind the monster. I should leave. I should go back to my room and pretend this never happened. But I can't. I'm drawn to the mystery, to the unexpected humanity of the moment. I stand there in the dim light of his study, watching him sleep, and I realize with a sinking feeling that my situation is far more complicated than I ever could have imagined. I am not just dealing with a monster, I am dealing with a man, and that is infinitely more dangerous. I retreat from the study as silently as I entered, pulling the heavy door closed behind me. My mind is reeling. Sophia, the name echoes, a question mark branded onto my thoughts. A past lover, a wife, a sister. The vulnerability I witnessed in him, the way he murmured her name with such aching softness, chips away at the monolithic image of the ruthless mob boss. It reveals a capacity for feeling, for loss, that I hadn't thought him capable of. Back in the sterile emptiness of the main hall, the house feels different. It's no longer just a beautiful prison. It's a place that holds secrets, a testament to a pain I don't understand. My own fear and anger are still present, a constant thrum beneath the surface, but now they are joined by a dangerous, unwelcome curiosity. I spend the rest of the day exploring my cage. I find a library, 2 stories high, filled with thousands of books. The collection is eclectic, from classic literature to modern thrillers, from philosophy to military history. It's the library of a well-read, complex mind. I run my fingers along the spines, the scent of paper and leather a small comfort. It's the first part of this house that feels truly alive. I discover a state-of-the-art gym, an indoor pool, even a small movie theater. Adrian has surrounded himself with every possible luxury, every distraction. And yet, the overwhelming feeling is one of profound loneliness. These are solitary pleasures, This is the fortress of a man who keeps the world at arm's length. I avoid the wing where his study is located, not wanting to encounter him. I'm not ready. I don't know what I would say, how I would act, now that I've seen him with his guard down. The memory of him, asleep and defenseless, has shifted the dynamic between us in a way I can't yet process. It has made him real. Elena finds me in the library in the late afternoon. She carries a tray with tea and sandwiches. "I thought you might be hungry," she says, her voice still soft and cautious. "Thank you, Elena." I give her a small, genuine smile. She is the only source of warmth in this cold, sterile place. She seems to be a permanent fixture, a silent observer of the DeLuca dynasty. She sets the tray down on a small table. She hesitates, as if wanting to say something more. I can see the conflict in her eyes, the war between her loyalty to her employer and the compassion she feels for me. "He is not a bad man, miss," she says finally, her voice barely a whisper. "He is complicated. Complicated doesn't give him the right to kidnap me and hold me here against my will," I retort, the anger flaring up again. Elena flinches, her gaze dropping to the floor. "The old promises, they have long shadows. Mr. DeLuca feels the weight of his father's legacy more than anyone, and I'm supposed to pay the price for that?" I challenge, my voice rising. She looks up at me, her eyes filled with a deep, ancient sadness. "We all pay a price for the choices of the men in this family, miss. Some of us just pay more than others." With that cryptic and unsettling statement, she turns and leaves me alone in the vast, silent library. Her words linger, chilling me to the bone. She didn't say the men in his family. She said this family. She is a part of it too, trapped, just like me. As dusk begins to fall, painting the sky in bruises of purple and orange, I know I can't hide any longer. I find my way to the dining room. The long table is set for two, at opposite ends, a battlefield laid out with fine china and silver. I take my seat, my back ramrod straight, and wait. A few minutes later, he appears. He has showered and changed into a simple black sweater and dark trousers. His hair is damp, combed back from his face. He looks rested, the harsh lines around his eyes softened. The vulnerability from the morning is gone, replaced by his usual mask of cool, impenetrable control. If he knows I was in his study, that I saw him, he gives no indication. He takes his seat at the far end of the table, the distance between us a chasm. "I trust you found the accommodations satisfactory," he says, his voice a low, even tone. "It's not a question. It's a beautiful prison," I reply, my voice sharp. "Congratulations." A flicker of annoyance crosses his features, so quick I almost miss it. He unfolds his napkin and places it in his lap. "You will have everything you need here, Cara. You will be safe." "Safe?" I let out a short, incredulous laugh. "I was safe before you abducted me. Were you?" He counters, his dark eyes locking onto mine. "Living in a rundown apartment, drowning in your father's debt, with your last $50 in your pocket? Your flight wasn't just canceled, Cara. Your lease was terminated. Your bank account was frozen. Every door back to your old life was closed this morning. You have nothing to go back to." The blood drains from my face. It wasn't just the flight. He has systematically dismantled my entire life, brick by brick, until the only path left was the one that led to him. The thoroughness of it, the cold, calculated cruelty, is staggering. "You had no right," I whisper, my voice trembling with a mixture of rage and despair. "I have every right," he says, his voice dropping, becoming dangerously quiet. "Your father signed that right over to me. He sold you, Cara. For a pittance, to cover a gambling debt he failed to mention to you. He chose his own skin over yours. If you want to be angry at someone, be angry at him." His words are brutal, designed to wound, to sever the last ties I have to my past, and they work. The image of my father, the man I was trying to protect, the reason I was so desperate to get back to Chicago, shatters. He didn't just make a mistake. He betrayed me in the most fundamental way a parent can. Tears prick my eyes, hot and shameful. I refuse to let him see me cry. I stare down at my plate, my vision blurring. Elena and another silent servant begin to serve the meal. The clink of cutlery against china is the only sound in the room. I don't eat. I can't. My throat is closed tight around a lump of grief and betrayal. We sit in silence for several minutes. The chasm between us feels 100 miles wide. "Who is Sophia?" The question leaves my lips before I can stop it. It's a grenade lobbed into the suffocating silence. Adrian freezes, his fork halfway to his mouth. Every ounce of warmth or civility vanishes from his expression. His face becomes a mask of stone, his eyes turning to black ice. The temperature in the room seems to drop 20 degrees. "Where did you hear that name?" he asks, his voice lethally soft. I lift my chin, meeting his glacial stare. My fear is still there, a cold knot in my stomach, but a reckless defiance pushes it aside. I have nothing left to lose. He's already taken everything. "You said it. This morning. In your study." The admission hangs in the air. I have confessed my trespass. I have admitted to seeing him in a moment of weakness. He places his fork down with slow, deliberate precision. The small sound is like a gunshot in the silent room. He pushes his chair back and stands, his tall frame radiating a cold, barely controlled fury. "You will stay out of my study," he says, each word a chip of ice, "and you will never speak that name again. Do you understand?" The threat is palpable, a living thing in the air between us. This is the monster. This is the man I saw on the jet. The brief glimpse of humanity I saw this morning is gone, buried under layers of rage and pain. I have touched a nerve, a raw, exposed wound, and he is lashing out. I should be terrified, and I am, but I also see something else in his eyes. Beyond the anger, I see a flash of pure, undiluted agony, and that, more than anything, tells me that Sophia is the key to understanding the man who holds my life in his hands. I don't answer him. I just hold his furious gaze, my own silence a form of defiance. With a final, murderous glare, he turns on his heel and strides out of the dining room, leaving me alone at the vast, empty table. The untouched plate of food in front of me is a symbol of our failed truce. The battle lines have been drawn, and I, armed with a single, forbidden name, have just found my first weapon. The days that follow fall into a strange, tense rhythm. Adrian and I are like two opposing planets, orbiting the same sun but never touching. We exist in the same house, but we live in different worlds. He avoids me, and I, taking his warning to heart, make no effort to seek him out. I take my meals alone in my suite or in the empty dining room. Sometimes I see him from a distance, a dark figure crossing a hallway or standing on a balcony, staring out at the turbulent sea. He is a ghost in his own home. The silence is a constant pressure. It gives me too much time to think. My anger at my father festers, a toxic poison in my veins. Adrian's words echo in my mind. "He sold you, Cara." I try to reconcile the man who raised me, who read me bedtime stories and taught me how to ride a bike, with the man who would trade his own daughter to settle a gambling debt. The two images refuse to merge. To keep from going mad, I throw myself into the library. It becomes my sanctuary, my escape. I read voraciously, losing myself in stories of other worlds, other lives. I find a section on art history and begin to study, drawn to the beauty and the order, a stark contrast to the chaos of my own life. One afternoon, about a week into my captivity, I am curled up in a leather armchair, lost in a book about Renaissance painters, when a sound from outside draws my attention. It's the crunch of tires on the gravel driveway, a visitor. Curiosity piqued, I go to the tall library window that overlooks the front of the house. A sleek, silver convertible has pulled up to the entrance. A woman gets out of the driver's seat. She is stunning, in a sharp, intimidating way, tall and slender, with fiery red hair cut in a severe, fashionable bob. She's wearing a white dress that clings to her body like a second skin, and impossibly high heels. She moves with the confidence of a woman who is used to owning every room she enters. The front door opens, and Adrian steps out to greet her. I instinctively shrink back from the window, but I can't tear my eyes away. The woman smiles, a wide, predatory smile, and wraps her arms around Adrian's neck, pulling him down for a kiss. It's not a gentle kiss. It's possessive, demanding. To my surprise, and to the dismay of the strange, tight feeling in my chest, Adrian doesn't pull away. He allows the kiss, his hands resting lightly on her waist. They break apart, and she says something, laughing. Even from here, I can hear the high, musical sound. It grates on my nerves. Adrian's expression is unreadable, but he leads her inside. I feel a hot, ugly surge of something that feels dangerously like jealousy. It's absurd. I am his prisoner. This woman, whoever she is clearly an invited guest. A lover. This is his life. a life I have no part in, other than as a pawn. But the sight of them together, of her hands on him, makes my stomach clench. I retreat from the window, my sanctuary suddenly feeling tainted. The book lies forgotten in my lap. Who is she? Is she the reason he is so cold, so distant? Is she the one who holds his affection, while I am just a business transaction? I spend the rest of the afternoon in a state of agitated restlessness. I can hear their voices from downstairs, the murmur of his low baritone and the bright, sharp notes of her laughter. The sound is an intrusion, a violation of the silent truce that has existed between Adrian and me. Later, Elena comes to my suite with my dinner tray. Her face is tighter than usual, her movements stiff. Who is she? I ask, my voice coming out harsher than I intended. Elena avoids my gaze, busying herself with arranging the silverware on the small table. That is Miss Isabella Rossi. The name means nothing to me, but the way Elena says it, with a mixture of dislike and fear, tells me everything I need to know. Her father is Vincente Rossi, Elena adds, her voice a low murmur. A business associate of the DeLuca family, a rival, or an ally of convenience. In Adrian's world, the two are often interchangeable. Isabella Rossi is Mafia royalty, just like him. They belong to the same world, speak the same language of power and violence. I am an outsider, an anomaly. Are they involved? I force myself to ask, the word tasting like acid on my tongue. Elena finally looks at me, her eyes filled with a familiar pity that I have come to despise. It has been assumed for many years that they would one day unite the families. Another contract, another arrangement. So, my presence here is not just about settling an old debt. It's a complication, a disruption to a long-standing plan. By bringing me here, Adrian has defied the expectations of his world, of powerful men like Vincente Rossi. A new, dangerous thought takes root in my mind. Perhaps my presence here is not just a liability. Perhaps it's a form of leverage. That night, sleep is impossible. I hear them when they leave. The sound of Isabella's convertible roaring to life, then fading into the distance. A short while later, I hear footsteps in the hall outside my suite. They stop at my door. My breath catches. Is it him? I wait, my body rigid with anticipation. But there is no knock, no click of the handle. After a long, agonizing moment, the footsteps retreat. The next day, the tension in the house is thicker than ever. I go down for breakfast, determined not to hide in my room. I need to see him. I need to gauge his reaction after his evening with Isabella. I find him in the dining room, nursing a cup of coffee, staring out the window at the gray, moody sea. He looks tired, the skin under his eyes darker than usual. I take my seat at the opposite end of the table. He doesn't acknowledge my presence at first. Good morning, I say, my voice clear and steady. He turns his head slowly, his eyes meeting mine. They are dark and stormy, like the ocean outside. Isabella enjoyed her visit, he says, his tone flat. It feels like a test, a deliberate jab. I'm sure she did, I reply, keeping my voice even. It must be nice to have company you haven't kidnapped. A muscle feathers in his jaw. Isabella understands our world. She knows the rules. And I don't? You are learning. He takes a slow sip of his coffee, his eyes never leaving mine. You learned, for example, not to speak a certain name in my presence. The memory of his fury hangs between us. He is reminding me of the power he holds, of the lines I cannot cross. But something has shifted in me. Seeing Isabella, understanding my position as a disruption to his plans, has emboldened me. And you're learning that I'm not as easy to control as you thought, I counter. A slow, dangerous smile spreads across his lips. It's the first time I've seen him smile in days, and it sends a shiver of both fear and excitement down my spine. Is that a challenge, Cara? Before I can answer, a sudden, deafening crash shatters the morning quiet. The glass of the dining room window explodes inward, spraying shards across the table. The sound is immediately followed by the sharp, terrifying report of gunfire. My world narrows to a single point of terror. I scream, throwing my arms over my head as a purely instinctual reaction. In the next second, everything is a blur of motion. Adrian moves faster than I could have imagined. He vaults over the long dining table, scattering china and silverware. He reaches me in an instant, his powerful body slamming into mine, knocking me off my chair and onto the floor. "Stay down!" he snarls, his voice a guttural roar in my ear. He covers my body with his own, his weight a heavy, solid shield. The scent of him, coffee, sandalwood, and pure adrenaline fills my senses. More shots ring out, thudding into the walls of the room. I can feel the vibrations through Adrian's body. He is a warm, living wall between me and death. In this moment of pure, unadulterated terror, I am not his prisoner. He is my protector. Men's voices shout from outside the house, followed by the sound of return fire from within. Adrian's security team is responding. The battle is fierce and terrifyingly close. Adrian's hand comes up to cup the back of my head, pressing my face into his shoulder. "Don't look," he commands, his voice tight. I can feel the frantic beat of his heart against my cheek, or maybe it's my own. They pound in unison, a single, terrified rhythm. I cling to him, my fingers digging into the fabric of his sweater. All my anger, all my defiance, evaporates, replaced by a primal need for the safety his body provides. The firefight seems to last an eternity, but it's probably only a minute or two. The shouting and gunfire recede, moving away from the house, down toward the cliffs. Then, silence. A ringing, deafening silence, broken only by our harsh, ragged breaths and the distant, mocking cry of a seagull. Adrian doesn't move for a long moment. He remains over me, a solid, protective weight, his body tense and coiled, listening. Finally, he seems to relax, just a fraction. "Are you hurt?" he asks, his voice low and rough. I shake my head against his shoulder, unable to speak. He pushes himself up slowly, his eyes scanning the shattered window, the damaged room. His face is a grim, murderous mask. He looks down at me, his dark eyes sweeping over my body, checking for injuries. He extends a hand to me. This time, I take it. His grip is strong and warm, and he pulls me to my feet as if I weigh nothing. I am trembling, my legs unsteady. "It's over," he says, his voice softer now. He doesn't let go of my hand. His thumb strokes the back of my knuckles, a small, grounding gesture in the midst of the chaos. A man in a dark suit, one of Adrian's security guards, appears in the doorway, his gun still drawn. His name is Marco, I think. He has a grim look on his face. "They're gone, Mr. DeLuca, headed for the water. We think it was the Rossi crew." Rossi, Isabella's family. This wasn't a random attack. This was a message, a warning, because of me. Adrian's jaw clenches, his eyes turning to black fury. He finally releases my hand and turns to his man. "Double the perimeter guards. I want a full sweep of the grounds. Find out how they got so close." "Yes, sir." Marco disappears. Adrian turns back to me. The fury in his eyes is replaced by something else, something I can't quite read. He steps closer, reaching out as if to touch my face, but then his hand drops. "This is because of me," I whisper, the realization hitting me with the force of a physical blow. "They did this because you brought me here." "This is not your fault, Cara," he says, his voice firm. "This is my world. These are my enemies. I brought you into it. It is my job to protect you." The protective act, so raw and undeniable, shatters the last of my defenses. He shielded me with his own body. He put himself between me and the bullets without a second's hesitation. The monster I thought I knew is gone, replaced by a man who just saved my life. The adrenaline begins to fade, replaced by a deep, bone-shaking shock. My knees buckle. Adrian catches me before I can fall, his strong arms wrapping around me, pulling me against his chest. I collapse against him, burying my face in his sweater, and for the first time since I was a child, I let someone else hold me up. I am no longer fighting him. In the wreckage of the dining room, surrounded by shattered glass and the smell of cordite, something between us has irrevocably broken, and in its place, something new and terrifying and undeniable has begun to form. He holds me tight, his hand stroking my hair, and whispers, "I've got you. I've got you." And for the first time, I believe him. I don't know when my life stopped being mine. Maybe it was when my ticket was canceled. Maybe it was the moment Adrian DeLuca's eyes found mine in that airport lounge. But as his jet carried me into a storm I didn't choose, I felt something shift. I was terrified, yes, but I was also alive in a way I hadn't been in years. This isn't the story of a girl who lost her freedom. It's the story of a woman who walked off the edge of the map, into a man's shadow, and found herself standing at the heart of his darkness. He may be my captor, but he's also the first person who's ever looked at me and seen more than a ghost, and that terrifies me more than his world ever could. If you've been with me through this, thank you. Tell me in the comments, would you have boarded that jet or walked away? Like this video if your heart raced with mine. Subscribe and ring the bell for the next chapter of this dangerous love story. And until next time, keep your heart brave and your choices your own.